Awesome. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us on Conversations with Jack today. Um, I just want to start off by thanking my sponsors, Citizen Cosmos and OmniFlix Media, who helped me produce this show. Citizen Cosmos also builds a chain called Cyber, that is a decentralized Google. They produce a lot of great content for the Cosmos community, and OmniFlix Media uh, is building a blockchain to sort of distribute video and audio content. And Sisla is an awesome help in making this podcast happen. So just want to start off by saying thank you to both of those folks. Today, I've got Gregory Landua from Regen Network. And I'm excited to have Greg on my show, as I was one of the first people on Greg's show, which was really fun. So Greg, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit? It looks like you got a little munchkin there in the background.
Yeah, I've got a little munchkin here in the background. Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Gregory. I'm one of the co-founders at Regen Network. Jack, it's so awesome to be here on the podcast with you. I'm excited to jam, and this is my little guy Obi.
Hey Obi, how's it going, bud?
Who doesn't usually make media appearances, but I guess today is the day.
Yeah, well, welcome Obi, and thanks for joining us. So Greg, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Regen project and kind of how you found Cosmos?
Well, so Regen Network was founded back in 2017, and we pretty immediately knew that we were going to be building a sovereign blockchain, and that was the appropriate approach. And back then, it was super clear that this is before the Cosmos SDK existed. So back then, it was very clear that sort of building our own custom application logic on the tendermint consensus engine was the way to go. And yeah, I mean, we were sort of peripheral, or in the larger Cosmos community from pretty early. I got to meet a bunch of the early crew back in Cancun in 2017 at DevCon.
You were actually a cosmonaut before I was.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah,
it's true.
So we're hardcore, Cosmos maximalists, which means like the beauty of the Cosmos ethos and what it means to be a Cosmos maximalist is use whatever works and build networks for the people that are going to use them.
Hell yeah. Oh yeah. I very, very much agree with that. And in Regen, I think, which is about to launch, it is definitely one of those networks. Tell us a little bit more about the Regen network you guys are launching.
Yeah, I guess I left that whole part out. So Regen Network is building a public proof-of-stake blockchain dedicated to ecological data, claims, and assets. And really, we're focused on the assets. And these are things like carbon credits. So folks may have recently saw in the news that we sold our first, what we call vintage, of carbon credits to Microsoft, which was our 2020 vintage, which is super exciting. Big sale, big news thing, sort of really powerful sort of traction story for us. And essentially these are, they're expressed as NFTs on our blockchain.
Yeah.
So, each carbon credit has all of the associated metadata of, the claim information, who said what about where, using what methodology, what people countersigned it and ran verifications or audits of that claim. And then it's a digital asset that in this case, in the case of the Microsoft deal, represented, 1 ton of carbon sequestration into soil.
So just to sort of break that down a little bit for folks, because, once you start talking about attestations and claims, like that's what gets me going in the morning. But I think a lot of folks get confused about that. Basically, what you're saying is that the folks who are doing that carbon sequestration, they are attesting that this was done, and then that allows them to issue this asset on the Regen chain. Is that right?
Yeah, well, in this case, and in all cases, really, there's a sort of I guess you might say, maybe loosely, sort of a web of trust model here, where different players are making attestations that then the buyer of the asset can audit and say, oh, there's a third-party verifier that attested that they reviewed the data and they visited the farm. Oh, there's the farmers who have put up their data and they're attesting to the practices and the authenticity of the data. And so there's the monitor group that pulled the satellite data, and there's a whole chain of attestations. There's attestations about the provenance of sort of like each different kernel of evidence that gets brought together to basically make it so that there's a threshold that's crossed and a token minting event happens. Right?
Okay, interesting. So more than just a single attestation, you've got multiple third-party verifiers. And I think that, when people hear about this system, they're like, that seems complex. But what you guys are doing is just tapping into existing environmental networks and putting the work that they've been doing for decades into a publicly managed database. And I think that is what is really, really exciting about what Regen is doing. Is it will bring a lot more public visibility to a lot of these projects. And Greg, you don't come out of the blockchain industry. You come out of this environmental world. Tell us a little bit more about your background.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm just moonlighting as a sort of blockchain technologist. My background is in permaculture, agroecology, agroforestry. I worked for more than 10 years with smallholder farmers all around the world, and companies helping transform their supply chains to be more regenerative, be more fair, to have working with farmer co-ops. And all of that work, in order to achieve that, it's all about information parity. It's all about leveling the playing field so that different stakeholders have access to the same information. That's one of the key building blocks of a healthy market. And that's one thing that a public blockchain does really well is can take those existing sort of siloed, bureaucratic, murky sort of relationships and bring them out into a shared distributed ledger, and even automate certain processes so that people have quicker, cheaper access to the information that they need.
So, I guess in sort of the traditional farming world, there is a lot of kind of secrecy and siloed data that contributes a lot to, I think, people's disconnection from the food that they eat, and their lack of understanding of how it is produced. In a prior life, I was a fine dining chef, and we did farm to table cooking and worked predominantly with local farms in the area. And I have a really great appreciation for the kind of work you do, Greg, and I think it's just extremely important bringing that information to light and letting consumers make better decisions.
Yeah, I mean, it's transformational, right? And I think it's, there's this classic, people in the crypto space, love mechanism design and game theory, right? There's these classic games, like the Prisoner's Dilemma. And the Prisoner's Dilemma is a game in which there's information being kept from both of the participants, and it forces them to make like essentially the least bad choice, right? But what happens if everybody has all the information? What kind of choices do people make? They make different choices, it turns out. They make choices.
Better choices.
They make better choices, right? And so, I mean, I think that's really a big part of our goal, is to use this transformative technology of the Cosmos SDK and to bring it to the sort of the domain and the movement of climate, and transforming the way that we approach agriculture, and transform the way we approach industries related to agriculture, land use more broadly, so that it's, so I actually circle around because a lot of your listeners may.
Greg, I love this topic. You're just hitting on so many things that I'm like, we should dig into that one.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Keep going.
Well, I think a lot of your listeners aren't going to be aware that if we, like, what motivates us, why we're passionate, is if we were to transform agriculture if there was an increase of only 0.4% of soil organic carbon in all arable lands across the
Mhm.
world, we would completely sequester all of the excess atmospheric carbon produced since the dawn of the Industrial Revolution. So just wrap our heads around the soil, photosynthesis, the biosphere, that has the key to unlocking the climate crisis, right? And in addition to being able to sequester all that carbon, it gives us healthier food, it reduces flood risk because deeper, healthier soil and healthier forests, they're the foundation for civilization. Like that's what we need. That's all been mined extractively. Like essentially we've been flushing our soil down the rivers, down the toilet,
Yeah.
metaphorical toilet. We've been doing all this industrial ag for short-term gains. So there's this economic challenge, this prisoner's dilemma that people are
Yes.
making time after time all over the world. And we have to shift the incentives. We have to make it so that, for every smallholder farmer or industrial farmer, it makes more sense for them to grow the health of their soil, for them to steward their biodiversity, because that's in their long-term interests and in society's long-term interests. Just up until now, it hasn't been in their short-term interests as far as profit goes. So that's what we're realigning ecological health with short-term economic interests. That's what Regen
This is
Network does.
this is the vision. And that was kind of what I like. I'm glad you came back to the prisoner's dilemma thing, because in the prisoner's dilemma, if the prisoners work together, they both get a good outcome. But if
They
they
win.
don't, they win. But if they try to oppose each other, then they both lose. And
That's right.
what is playing out in a large scale right now with these farmers is a large scale prisoner's dilemma. The society has sort of segmented these farmers, prevented them from working together towards this like overall better outcome for everyone, but it requires coordination. And what are blockchains and what are these economic incentives other than means to help drive coordination between parties with interests that are widely divergent sometimes and often conflicting? I think that seeing the Bitcoin network succeed gave a lot of people hope that we can do this. And what the Cosmos SDK is a system for allowing communities of people to set up their own economic design systems and use those to help drive communication and coordination. It's wild. I've seen it with the Cosmos Hub. There's a lot of different threads within the Cosmos, and the economic incentives within the Cosmos Hub continue to bind this community together in really surprising ways that, make collaboration within this ecosystem just awesome.
Yeah.
So
Open. It's like having
yeah,
an open, programmable incentive structure so that people who otherwise will have their incentives drift and become adversarial is really
yes,
powerful. And so
yeah,
that
it
social
is.
coordination function is, I mean, let's just say it's worth experimenting with, right? That we need to bring this into domains like agriculture and climate, and see how it goes. And so far, all of our experiments are showing us similar outcomes as what's been emerging in the larger Cosmos ecosystem, which is that you can deeply align people's shared interests for a public good that actually creates a virtuous cycle with their own sort of individual economic outlook.
Yeah, and to anchor this in kind of a concrete thing, the Cosmos project was started at Tendermint, which is its own company. And throughout the last few years, that company's actually undergone quite a bit of transformation. There's a new CEO there. The founder is no longer there, but everyone I know who was there all still works on this project in one way or
Yeah.
another.
Yeah.
And it's that is like something that I really like. It makes me really happy that I get to keep working with all these people. But I don't think that would have happened without this sort of decentralized coordination mechanism of the Cosmos Hub that kind of brings us all together and gives us this kind of shared sense of mission to grow this thing. And using that for the good of the planet, like what else do you want to do it for, you know?
Well, and you know, this is where there's such a strong, this is what I love about Cosmos, which is that, you know, people sort of say, oh, well, what's the Cosmos Hub's value proposition?
Yeah.
What, like, how are you enforcing Atom holders to earn something? That's not, that is
The wrong question.
the wrong question. But that's the question that many people in the larger crypto space get stuck on.
Yep.
And that's why they're building networks that won't work.
Yeah, that they'll end up becoming the Betamax, you know.
Right, because if you're a project developer and you can choose between an open ecosystem in which your participation in the economics is, you know, win-win but voluntary, versus one that is rent seeking where you have to pay to participate and that's the only way to participate, what are you going to choose?
You're
Right,
going to
so which
choose
is
an
actually more
open
competitive?
ecosystem
Which is more
over and
competitive?
over. Yeah.
Over and over and over again. But at the beginning, you don't have the narrative to tell your investors and to tell the base of the pyramid, the people who are in first, like, I'll guarantee you that if we get this many people on, you'll earn X amount of money. That's not how it works. You have to work together. There's no pyramid scheme. It's everybody working. It's everybody. It only works if, you know, if everybody is actually like rolling their sleeves up and contributing. And that's, so maybe this is the opportunity to get towards where Regen Network, you know, has contributed in the community and alongside so many others, right?
Greg, excellent segue. Please, yeah, you know, the work that Aaron and the engineering team have done over the last year has been just awesome to see. I want to hear it from your perspective.
Well, it's, you know, I think starting in early 2018, I think, you know, maybe, you know, right after the hub launched. So, you know, hub launched in March 2018. Is that right? 2019.
2019? The
Okay,
last
so
couple of years have been a blur.
It's been a blur. I think you're right. I think it was 2019. It was, yeah, and then interchain conversation. So somewhere around then, maybe even a little earlier, we had started. We realized that it would be better to use the Cosmos SDK than to build a completely different application logic on top of Tendermint, because we're a small team and we just couldn't do it all ourselves. So join the community. Okay. As we started doing that, our use case and our users, you know, doing our own customer discovery and our own user stories, led us to have a pretty clear understanding of what the layer one, what the Cosmos SDK needed to be for us. And so I think we pretty quickly just decided to start contributing and trying to push things to master, not just like maintain our own little private walled garden over there in Regen Ledger land, but to say, well, if this is useful for other people, we'll do the work to make sure that it gets included for the whole community. So I think we basically became the lead contributor besides Tendermint AIB fairly quickly. And so we were, you know, kind of, you know, working and contributing and having our own thing and then contributing to the whole. And as Tendermint Inc. Transitioned and things started to evolve from, you know, the way the organization started to what it is now.
Yeah.
It became clear that the ecosystem needed a maintainer for the Cosmos SDK, and we had been doing an awful lot of contributions, and we sort of presented a roadmap that said, look, the Cosmos SDK needs to do the following things if it's going to work. And a lot of that was around, you know, the client integration side of things.
Yes.
You know, because for us, we need to be able to integrate with farmer data apps, and we need to have good key management solutions. And it's not just like a wallet that somebody can stake with that we need a bunch of other interfaces, integrations, and engagements from multiple stakeholders. And it became really clear that we needed to do something about that. And we offered to do it, and the community said, go for it.
Man, you mentioned something that has me really excited, which is the better key management. And I feel like we could spend 30 minutes talking about Regen's usage of that better key management. And, it's being able to control in a granular level and give small permissions to individuals to take very concrete actions with a given
Yeah.
account is a necessary piece of delegation that the existing financial system and a lot of more mature systems have. I think if you look at the history of databases, like building in that access control layer is generally something that comes a little bit later. And this group module that the Regen team is building is that advanced access control for Cosmos. And that is a feature that's going to come within the next few months. I know Aaron's like had it in a branch for a long time. That's just going to blow people's mind with what it enables. And
it's super exciting, and combining that intersecting with the Keystone project, which is the name for the sort of for some specific key and fee management. So the group module and the Keystone project together, give this really granular ability to delegate different forms of access to and actions.
One I was thinking about the other day is a blank check. Like if you want to write somebody a blank check in the Cosmos SDK, kind of hard to do. You need to send them a specific amount of tokens. But with the groups module, you could just hand them a key that has the permission to make one send from that account. Yeah. So that's a blank check. All of these sort of traditional analogs that we're familiar with are going to become not only possible, but trivial with this new feature. Anyway, very excited.
It's super exciting. And why did we need it? We needed it for a very specific use case. We need to have farmers, who, from around the world, participating in our network in a way that they can attest to something, and they can participate in receiving, money for that, but that they can do so at least at the beginning without having to mess with paying gas and other things. So they need to just be able to sign a transaction just by saying yes on their smartphone, not by doing any other complicated things, but in a way that's secure, and they're not risking their sort of public-private key pair or losing their keys or any other thing. And so there's this ability to have specific delegated actions, and for them to participate fully as a sovereign network, and even mature to be able to have relationships and claim full access in different moments or not. So it just gives this enormous amount of flexibility what's being built, and we needed that. That was like a non-negotiable for our go-to-market use case.
I mean, it's a key user experience feature that enables building of actual user experiences other than what folks are familiar with in the blockchain industry, which is hacked together on the most part, hacked together on top of very inflexible systems.
Yeah.
I want to shift focus a little bit here. One of the kind of stated goals of the tendermint consensus algorithm was to reduce the environmental impact of cryptocurrencies. Yeah. With the Bitcoin price on the rise again, and with the expansion of the Bitcoin mining infrastructure, this is in the news again. And it's, something that we're going to keep running into as an industry until we transition to more energy efficient alternatives, of which tendermint is one of them. How does Regen see itself helping with the Bitcoin narrative that they're dealing with right now around energy usage?
Awesome question. Well, and I want to answer this sort of slowly and in a couple pieces. So first, just for everybody out there, I want, proof of stake and proof of work are fundamentally different. Probably a lot of listeners know that, but let's just size the difference.
Yes.
So, somewhere more than 14,000 times more energy efficient to do a proof of stake transaction than a proof of work transaction, right? If you think about what that means, the Bitcoin network, in order to be a not even a functional global settlement layer, it doesn't function as a settlement layer, it's just a store of value, right? In order to do what it does, what Bitcoin does, takes the energy of the country of Chile right now. Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty
If
wild.
pretty wild. If Regen Network achieves global scale of being an ecological ledger and marketplace for assets of, you know, carbon, biodiversity, water of the entire planet, and maybe there's some competitors, but it's like a big part of that, and it has global reach. Instead of having the energy and greenhouse gas footprint of a large nation state, we'll have the energy footprint of like a large data center or a
Yep.
mid-sized city. You know, that's like
Yeah.
there's a bunch of people, there's a bunch of data centers, and they'll be spread around the world, and they, you know, maintain the integrity of the consensus and, you know, the database and the functionality. So it's just two orders of magnitude, and for the value that gets generated, and so the value that is possible to be secured and generated by proof of stake approach is, I mean, wow, it's
Unbounded.
transformative. Yeah, exactly. So now let's talk about, like, proof of work has a place and it's important in the scheme of things.
Yeah.
I've come to believe this, although I didn't believe it initially.
Bitcoin has paved the way for all of us. And, you know, this network that Bitcoin has built, like, I think there's a lot of people who've long theorized there's room for about one proof of work chain in the world.
Exactly. I think that's true.
Yeah.
I think the world does sort of need, need is maybe a strong word, but
philosophical way. Yeah.
right, in a certain scenario of us trying to create a more sane, transparent, sort of equitable financial system that empowers people and is sort of not dark and shadowy and controlled.
Yeah.
We need a single proof of work chain to provide various services for the rest of the, you know, the rest of
Yeah.
how this all functions cryptographically
Yeah.
and sort of the network. Okay. So how do we redeem Bitcoin, and how do we redeem proof of work? If taken for granted that we kind of need it around, but do we want it to just be gobbling up our planet's resources in order to create the sort of network security that we need? There's a couple of
No,
different
we don't.
We don't want that. So we're having some very exciting conversations with folks in the proof of work world about offsetting, right? Offsetting their emissions. So that's where essentially you calculate the energy and emissions that are used from like a Bitcoin miner, and you offset that with carbon credits. And those carbon credits can take a couple of different forms. That's one important element here. Another important element.
So just real quick to help the audience understand, when you were talking earlier about farmers sequestering carbon and growing the carbon intensity of their land and measuring that through a series of attestations with things including satellites, and you've already sold the first tranche of those to Microsoft, these are the same carbon credits. And they're going to come from this decentralized network of farmers who are all working to increase the carbon capture of their farms. Right?
Exactly. In a measurable, transparent way, where forests, farms, mangrove systems, estuaries, all of these places where through conscious management choices, we can increase the carbon capture, we can monitor it, we can quantify it, and we can, you know, sell that as a public good asset, essentially, that can offset, you know, externalized costs like carbon emissions from Bitcoin mining.
Yes. And, you know, Gregory, I think a lot of people hear that and they think, oh, there's some guy out in Maryland, you know, planting, you know, this whole bunch of acres of stuff. And like, that's carbon capture. And it doesn't really sink in for people. But if you think about an economic system that incentivizes that type of activity and incentivizes people to rebuild the ecosystems that we've destroyed over the last 50 years, by selling that work of regenerating the world to people who are, you know, using that energy as a way to help offset the damage that it's doing, that's a really powerful cycle that will just continue to turn and continue to regenerate more and more land and like build more and more sustainable systems.
So this is where it gets exciting, because
Yeah.
if we can link an asset like Bitcoin that has this negative externality with a positive externality, and we can bring those two together into a single balanced asset, just imagine, how powerful that is as a form of collateral or as a store of value, where you actually are recoupling and have sort of a value that not only has the cryptographic security and all of the guarantees that the Bitcoin network has, but it's also coupled with the value of this ecological state. So you have statefulness of the data and you have statefulness of the ecosystems, and you can bring those two together. And that's one of the things that I'm most excited about. This is early days, and we'll see how it all goes. But IBC, the new world of IBC that's coming in, allows Regen Ledger and the Bitcoin network to communicate with one another in order, I believe, to create probably the most transformational asset class that's existed, which is marrying digital capital and natural capital together to create a new form of collateral for a decentralized financial future.
Yeah. And, for the folks who are all about dollars and cents, there are real dollars and cents in these carbon markets, and they really exist. And those are huge, huge assets that are going to be moving on to Regen Ledger.
Yeah, the last year's carbon market the annual carbon market was 220 billion.
Yeah.
And that's expected. The sort of like natural climate, sort of natural carbon, that is to say, it's from living systems, is expected by 2050 to be between $1 and $2 trillion per annum of sort of like market turnover, which is roughly the same size as the oil and gas industry.
Yeah, and right now that industry is hugely non-transparent. It's owned by a bunch of large incumbents. It's kind of cozy. And what Gregory and the Regen Network folks are doing is trying to democratize that more, allow small farmers to access this as an income stream, and help them in their transition to organic farming and a bunch of other things. It's a wildly ambitious project and exactly the kind of thing that I love to see in this space. So we are actually way over. I normally try to keep this at a tight 30, but this conversation has just been too fun. So there is one audience question that I want to get to before we jump here. Pramod asks, is blockchain at the core of Regen's business model? How will Regen Network continue to contribute to the Cosmos ecosystem, in spite it being a deviation from Regen's core business?
Those are two great questions. So yes, blockchain is essential to our business model. We can't achieve what we want without the kind of transparency. I would put it this way: data integrity guarantees, data availability guarantees, and the ability to, through attestations and transparent distributed ledgers, audit data quality. And those are the three foundations for a good digital asset. And we can't do that without blockchain.
Data quality, as I will note, and I know this from other conversations with you, is one of the biggest issues in the current carbon market. There's a lot of kind of low quality data attested to by third parties that are, questionable.
And the key here isn't to say that, oh, we just fix data quality. The key is that we can create markets around data quality so that price signal and competition incentivize increases in data quality. That's correct.
Yeah.
And awesome. How are we going to keep contributing? I mean, without a strong ecosystem of this sort of pre-competitive base technology of the Cosmos SDK and all of the associated modules, the emergence of DeFi in Cosmos, IBC, all of these things, we can't do what we want to do. So we need a strong ecosystem. So we fully intend to continue to contribute. We're going to continue maintainership of the SDK at least through the end of this year. And then, we'll see. Maybe that's a baton that we pass on to another ambitious team. Maybe it's a role that we continue to play. We also have some big plans, as Jack said, for key management, the groups module, different governance pieces. So anything that we identify in our roadmap that is bigger and more useful for teams beyond us, we really have we dedicate ourselves to doing it in such a way that it is useful for the entire ecosystem. And we feel very strongly about that ethos because we just think it's the most competitive thing to do, is to help build a strong cosmos.
Yeah, Greg, I think when Regen talks about building strong ecosystems, it's not just in the natural world, it's also in this human world. And you guys have done a great job. Anything before we wrap here that you want to say to the audience?
Well, yeah, we're cranking away towards mainnet. You can check out, join our Discord if you want to sort of engage in chatter and see what's happening in the incentivized testnet that's going right now. And yeah, we're just about a week away from closing our private presale, and everything is just cranking. So it's an exciting time. Super grateful to be on the podcast with you here, Jack, and excited for how this community is forming and blossoming. It's pretty exciting days. Welcome to the post Stargate world.
Nice. Well, thank you very much, Gregory. And before we wrap here, I just want to say thank you to the sponsors, the Citizen Cosmos folks, as well as OmniFlix Media. Couldn't do it without you guys. And this broader Cosmos community is really awesome, and looking forward to more episodes. So we'll be back next week. I don't have a guest yet, but I'll find one. So thank you guys very much for your time, and talk soon.